Hello to all my friends and family at Ridley College. I'm Mike Burton. I'll be leading you through a devotional during this crisis season that we're in. And I've chosen as the text I want to reflect on Psalm 77, which is a very important text to me. It speaks to me in times of difficulty and times of stress and times of trouble because I guess many of you are experiencing a certain degree of stress or duress. I just got an email from a good friend of mine who lost his job. Some people are experiencing sort of, minor conveniences, major life shake-up, and even, running the gauntlet through the valley of the shadow of death. And in that kind of environment, I find a lot of encouragement from Psalm 77. So I just want to go through part of it and read it to you and think and reflect on what it means for us today, in particular in our current situation in life. And we read in verse 1, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night, I stretched out untiring hands, and my soul refused to be comforted. I remembered you, O God. I groaned, I mused, and my spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. I thought about the former days, the years of long ago. I remembered my songs in the night. My heart mused, my spirit inquired, will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in anger withheld his compassion? That may be very much what you feel like at the moment. Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he kind of just gone out to lunch and left us to our own tired and macabre devices as the world crumbles in a mixture of disease and dystopia and death and that type of thing? Is God distant? Is God there? Does God really care? That can be the type of questions we have at the current point in time. This sense of God's absence, or at least the absence of his care and compassion, wondering about his mercy and compassion. But note what the psalmist does. The psalmist's solution to his sense of trauma, his distress, is what you might call covenantal memory. Remembering in the past how God has showed his compassion, his mercy, his love, and his salvation. Have a look in verse 10 and following from Psalm 77. Then I thought, to this I will appeal, the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles long ago. I will meditate on all your works and consider all your mighty deeds. Your ways, O God, are holy. What God is so great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm you redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. The waters saw you, O God, the waters saw you and writhed, the very depths convulsed. The clouds poured down with water, the skies resounded with thunder. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Your thunder was heard in the whirlwind. Your lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and quaked. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. What the psalmist does there, as his way of kind of, dare I say, preaching the gospel to himself, is to remember the amazing nature of God. This is the type of God that the earth melts at his presence. This is the God whose lightning is heard in the whirlwind. This is the God who came down and led the Israelites, in the Exodus out of Egypt with this amazing display of all sorts of supernatural and natural pyrotechnics. And he led the way through the waters, even though it says his footprints were not seen. So the psalmist is telling himself to remember. Don't fixate on the present, the current feeling that we have. Remember the nature of God and remember what God has done for us in the past. How can we say that God does not care when He led us out of slavery? He led us through the Red Sea. How can we say God is disinterested or He has no concern or love for us when we have seen previously God's great act of covenantal deliverance to save us so we could worship Him and be His people? That's what the psalmist wants to remember. That's what he's telling himself when everything at the moment seems pretty scary, messed up, confusing, uh, and a little bit just, I guess, insane for his own context. He then goes on in verse 20, he finishes with these words in verse 20. He says, God, you led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. God is the shepherd God. Jesus is the shepherd king, and he leads us often through his own sub-pastors, and I know many of you will be already operating in that sub-pastor role, to lead people through the darkness, through the sea, through the despair, through the trauma. But it's God who is with us, even though his footprints may not be seen. He's with us in the storm. He's with us in the pandemic. He's with us in the fear, in the anxiety, and the trauma. What we have to do is we have to remember. We have to remember rightly. This is the God that so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. This is the God who did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all. If God is willing to do that, do you think at the very end he's going to simply leave us to our own devices, leave us and the church and his holy people to simply be obliterated by the latest pandemic or by some sort of economic crisis? Our God is bigger than that. But the challenge for us is to remember rightly. And let me just finish off with this thought. I once had a friend who began his career in Christian ministry, and after 3 months I remember asking him, what was it like? And he said, oh yeah, it's fantastic, Mike. I can't believe I get paid to preach and teach and serve God's people and lead Bible studies. It's terrific. It's the best thing in the world. I love it. And he was really enjoying it and thriving it. But then in his ministry, a couple of things went wrong. He had a couple of bad meetings. A few parishioners kind of got up a bit up in his face about a few issues. He had a few clashes with his other colleagues, and I saw him, and this is like 6 months later, and I asked him what it was like being at the church, and then all of a sudden he remembered everything very differently. Oh, from the moment I got here, it's been terrible and such hard work. They've mistreated me. I've been abused. I've been manipulated, and all these sorts of things. And I was trying to reconcile in my mind how this could possibly be. Well, the answer is it's the way that we remember. We can remember selectively, focusing on the bad things, or we can remember rightly. Remember that God is great and God is for us and he is with us in the sea, in the anxiety, and in the pandemic. So that's my thought for the Ridley community for this week. Some wonderful things, hopefully to encourage you in your faith, your ministry, your service, your life, as we try to work our way through what is happening in the world around us at the moment. So God bless you, and hope to see you all around very soon.